every step unsettled the ancient earth. But we were in a realm of death and madness.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of First Impressions. Today we're going to be looking at Darkest Dungeon, so I'm going to go through the gameplay, good points and bad points, and give you my overall first impressions. So, what's the aim of the game? Well, after the opening cinematic plays, it is revealed that you as the player have inherited an estate from a relative who began a series of excavations on the catacombs and dungeons beneath the mansion and the surrounding lands in a bid to uncover wealth and fortune. However, these excavations eventually resulted in the uncovering of a dark tomb. This resulted in portals opening up to dark dimensions, and the surrounding lands and estate were flooded by terrible and evil creatures. Now, rather than deal with the threat and the horrors that have been unleashed, your ancestor took his own life, and you've inherited not only the estate but the responsibility of putting right the mistakes of your ancestor. In Darkest Dungeon, the gameplay takes place in two phases. The first phase of the gameplay is the management of your heroes in the hamlet of the estate. In the hamlet there is a number of locations to interact with. The first of these is the wagon, which is used to bring in new heroes to bolster your reserves of fighters. The wagon can be upgraded by spending a set number of treasures. The upgrades include things such as improving the calibre of heroes who join your expedition, the number of heroes who join the expedition each week, and the number of heroes who you can hold in reserve before switching them around for different battles. The next two locations that you can interact with are the Abbey and the Tavern. So in the Abbey, this is a place where heroes can relieve stress built from combat through things such as either prayer, meditation and flagellation. The Tavern again is a place of stress relief. This offers stress relief by allowing the heroes to drink, gamble and even visit a brothel. The use of either the Tavern or the Abbey does relieve the stress of the heroes placed there. Now sometimes by using the same heroes using the same buildings to relieve stress, this can lead to them developing either positive or negative quirks, which I'll talk about shortly. The next location is the Ancestor's Memoirs. Now this lets the player review the records and journal pages you discover in your adventure, and these detail the exploits of your ancestor. Now there's a blacksmith. The blacksmith lets you upgrade your heroes' weapons and armour, and as you'd expect, that improves their attack and defence. There's a graveyard. Now the graveyard lets you view your fallen heroes, and it provides information on what killed them. There's a guild. Now the guild allows you to upgrade your heroes' abilities and learn new ones. The heroes can have a set number of abilities equipped at any point, and you can change them after and before battles. There is a nomad wagon. Now the nomad wagon is a woman who sells trinkets that you can equip on your heroes, and these have various effects such as reducing stress, improving certain combat techniques. There's a sanitarium. Now this is a place where you can place your heroes to remove negative quirks and lock in positive quirks that they've inherited through their adventures. This also removes maladies your heroes contract in the dungeons. And finally there's a survivalist who teaches camping skills to the heroes. Now all these facilities can be upgraded to reduce the cost of using them, boost the level of services performed at these, and also the effectiveness of using them. Now to talk about the heroes you recruit. These all serve various roles in battle, so there's some which are support functions, healers, some can use range attacks, and there's also melee frontline fighters. The heroes that you recruit all come with various character quirks. These can be both negative and positive, and there's dozens of variations of quirks. Some of the negative ones that you encounter include things such as the nervous quirk, which means that character will build up stress more quickly than others. The sickly quirk, which means they're less likely to resist disease. And there's one called kleptomania, which means they'll steal treasures that they find in a tomb and they're not available for the player to spend. The positive quirks that you can encounter include things such as hard-skinned, meaning that the hero has more protection generally. The robust quirk means that they're more likely to resist diseases. There's also one called Slugger, which means they just do more damage with melee attacks. The second part of the gameplay is the actual combat and exploration. Now before you set off on a quest, you have to buy provisions. Provisions include things such as torches to burn, food to eat, shovels to clear obstacles, keys to open locked mechanisms and various healing items. It's important to bring enough of these items as when exploring the dungeons there are points where your heroes will encounter obstacles which require a shovel to clear quickly. Traps may need to be disarmed. There's also chests and mechanisms which sometimes need a skeleton key to open. and they also need food to stave off hunger, and additional torches to keep your journey illuminated, as each torch is consumed as you journey along each dungeon. If you have less of these items than you need, your heroes suffer increased stress. Heroes become hungry, so if you don't have food to feed them, this raises their stress. If they have to clear an obstruction by hand rather than having a shovel, this increases their stress. If they don't get enough torchlight, this can increase the stress as they journey along each dark tunnel. However, as the darkness sets in and the stress increases, that does give you the risk reward system of having better loot. Now to talk about the stress mechanic in the game. So each hero has a stress level starting from 0 and it goes up to a maximum of 200. When stress builds up, your heroes can become afflicted, which renders them with a temporary negative effect. Now this occurs at about halfway when your stress is at 100. The negative effects that you have temporarily include things such as paranoia, fearfulness, abusiveness, and various other effects. There's also the rarer chance that instead of becoming afflicted with a negative effect, your hero may become what's called virtuous. Again, this is a temporary state which has positive traits. If your hero ends up with a maximum stress level of 200, they'll have a heart attack, which reduces their health points to 0 and puts them in a state called death's door, which means you have a temporary time limit to recover their health and stress, otherwise they'll die. So as well as the stress damage which I mentioned, your heroes also have physical health points they need to recover in battle through either healing skills, by eating food outside of battle, and also by camping. And as I just mentioned, when your hero reaches 0 HP, they enter a state called Death's Door, and if you don't recover their health quickly, they'll die. Now when heroes die, they're dead forever, so you need to take care to manage not only their physical health, but their mental health also. And if you've spent time developing a hero who dies, you then need to recruit a new hero and invest more time and money in developing again, so you want to take care not to let your best heroes die. The combat in Darkest Dungeon is turn-based, so when you go into a dungeon you take 4 heroes into battle with you, and they're positioned into either 2 rear slots or 2 front slots. Generally speaking, the support characters will occupy the rear slots, and the fighting characters who use melee attacks will occupy the front slots. Certain abilities can only be used when your hero is in the correct slot and position. However, certain abilities may alter the position of your character, which requires you to use that character's turn to move them back into their preferred position. This also goes for enemies. They occupy both front and rear slots, and they can unleash attacks that not only damage the health and raise stress of your heroes, but also can move that hero out of their preferred slot, which means some attacks will be unavailable until they move back into the correct position. Your heroes also have abilities which can alter the enemy position, as well as restore stress damage and the more common health points. Some enemies who utilise ranged and stress attacks will generally be in the back rows, but to reach them you need to either use a ranged attacker, or if nobody fits that role or lacks the required skills, you need to fight through the front rows first to reach them. Generally speaking, the front rows of the enemies you encounter will have either their tank or melee fighters, and the back rows, as I mentioned, will have their support characters. Now whenever you kill an enemy, they die and their corpse will occupy the slot where they've fallen. Now you can wait a number of turns for the corpse to disappear, or you can destroy the corpse more quickly by issuing an attack. Now by doing this will actually bring the back row enemies closer to the front row, and it will allow you to dispatch them much more easily. There's not too much to say about the graphics in Darkest Dungeon. I do like the way the graphics are displayed, and as you can see from looking at the video, it's 2D, looks almost hand-drawn and comic book in appearance, and has an overall dark and gothic theme. There's quite a lot of colours, especially some of the attack animations, and you can also change the outfits of your heroes, which has a bit more variance. I really enjoyed the musical score of Darkest Dungeon. In my opinion, it's very dark and atmospheric, and suits the overall vibe and visuals of the game very well. The most outstanding thing for me though is the narration from your ancestor. So each time you would go on an expedition, take an action in battle, have a defeat, a victory, discovery, or even visit some of the facilities in town, there's narration from your ancestor. Now the narration ranges from either being contemptuous, sardonic, and quite dark at times, but does fit in with the overall feel and vibe of the game very well. So far, I'm really enjoying the story in Darkest Dungeon. It's quite dark, it's very intriguing, and it's very reminiscent of H.P. Lovecraft's writing in the way that it deals not only with otherworldly evil, but the themes of madness and stress. I really like the number of heroes that you can recruit into your roster. There's not only a large number of roles and various functions that they serve, but they all come with randomised quirks, both good and bad, and the option to alter their appearance. There's a lot of quests and objectives to complete, and there's an impressive number of enemy types to encounter as well. And I find that the old combat mechanic, with not only having to deal with the physical elements of battle, but also the mental ones, is quite tense and very rewarding. Overall, there's not a lot that I actually dislike about Darkest Dungeon. The only gripe I really have is sometimes the menus can be a little bit fiddly, and some of the statuses can be a bit complex at first, but there is a good tutorial and help menu that you can bring up at any time during combat and exploration. Overall, this is a very enjoyable turn-based RPG. There's a lot of tactical combat that is both rewarding and tense. There's a great narration and a lot of replay value due to the randomness and skill of the heroes that you can recruit. This is certainly a game for somebody who's willing to put the hours in, but for doing so you'll be rewarded with a baroque and at times darkly humorous story with the way that it's actually presented and narrated. This game doesn't do too much hand-holding, but by unlocking its secrets and learning the way the combat works, you'll come away feeling very accomplished with every victory that you achieve. Well, that's all for this episode of First Impressions. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you subscribe to my channel, that'll ensure you never miss another video. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.